My name is Lenora Whitfield, and I'm 63 years old. 10 days before Thanksgiving, I discovered my daughter Cassidy was planning to humiliate me in front of our entire family. Not just embarrass me, but systematically destroy my reputation using lies she'd been carefully crafting for months. I'm a retired librarian from Des Moines, Iowa. I spent 35 years helping people find books, organizing community reading programs, and living a quiet, decent life. My husband Gerald died 6 years ago from a heart attack. Since then, I've lived alone in our small ranch house on Maple Street. Cassidy is my only child, she's 38, works in marketing, and married Brennan 5 years ago. They have one daughter, my granddaughter Merritt, who just turned 15. I thought we were close. I babysat Merritt every week. I attended every school concert and soccer game. I helped Cassidy through her difficult pregnancy and supported her career. But apparently, none of that mattered. The discovery happened by accident. Cassidy had asked me to watch Merritt while she and Brennan attended a work conference in Chicago. Of course, I said yes. Merritt and I always had fun together, baking cookies and watching old movies. That Friday evening, Merritt was doing homework at the kitchen table when her phone buzzed. She'd left it charging on the counter, and I glanced over instinctively. The screen showed a text from Cassidy. "Don't tell Grandma about Thanksgiving. The surprise needs to work." My stomach dropped. What surprise? Merritt grabbed the phone quickly, her face flushing red. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Guilt mixed with pity. "Grandma." She started, then stopped. Her hands were shaking. I sat down across from her, trying to keep my voice calm. "Merritt, what's going on? What surprise?" Merritt wouldn't look at me. She kept staring at her phone, tears forming in her eyes. "I can't tell you." Mom said I can't tell you. The fear in her voice scared me more than anything else. This wasn't about a party or a gift. This was something that frightened my granddaughter. I reached across the table and took her hand. "Sweetheart, if something's wrong, you can tell me. I'm your grandmother. I love you no matter what." She pulled her hand back and ran upstairs to the guest room. Slamming the door, I heard her crying through the wall. I stood in that kitchen for 20 minutes, trying to understand what could make Merritt so upset. What surprise at Thanksgiving could require such secrecy? I thought about calling Cassidy, but something stopped me. If Merritt was this scared to tell me, confronting Cassidy directly would only make things worse. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Merritt's expression, the way she'd looked at me with pity. Around 2 in the morning, I heard footsteps downstairs. I found Merritt in the kitchen, drinking water. Her eyes were red from crying. "Can't sleep either?" I asked gently. She shook her head. We sat at the table in silence for a while. Then Merritt whispered, "Grandma, you've always been good to me." "Right, of course, honey. You're one of the greatest joys of my life." She started crying again. "Then why is Mom doing this? Why is she saying those things about you?" My heart stopped. "What things?" Merritt looked terrified, like she'd said too much. "I shouldn't have said anything. Mom will kill me." I moved my chair closer to hers. "Merritt, please. If your mother is saying things about me, I need to know." Merritt took a deep breath. "Mom's been telling the whole family that you're losing your mind. She says you have dementia and can't take care of yourself anymore. She's been collecting examples for months." I felt like I'd been punched. "What? That's not true. I'm completely fine." Merritt nodded. "I know, Grandma. I told her that, but she said you wouldn't realize it yourself. That's how dementia works." My hands were shaking now. "What examples?" Merritt pulled out her phone and showed me a document. It was titled Mom's Decline Evidence Log. I read through it, my vision blurring with tears. There were dozens of entries. October 3rd, Mom called me 3 times asking the same question about Merritt's school schedule. Clear short-term memory loss. October 10th, found expired food in Mom's refrigerator. She's not managing basic self-care. October 18th, Mom forgot our lunch date completely. Called me confused about why I was upset. Every single entry was a lie or a twisted version of reality. I had called Cassidy multiple times on October 3rd, but about different things. She'd been the one not listening. Distracted by work, the expired food was a single yogurt cup I'd missed. And I hadn't forgotten our lunch date. Cassidy had changed the time without telling me, then acted like I was confused. "She's been building a case against you," Merritt said quietly, "at Thanksgiving. She's planning to announce it to everyone. Uncle Derek, Aunt Philippa, all the cousins. She's going to say, you need to go into a care facility. I couldn't breathe. Why would she do this? Merritt's voice was barely a whisper. The house, Grandma. Brennan lost his job 6 months ago. They're drowning in debt. Mom said if you go into care, she can sell your house and use the money. The pieces fell into place with horrifying clarity. 3 months ago, Cassidy had suggested I add her name to my house deed. Just for estate planning, Mom. To make things easier when the time comes. I'd said I wanted to think about it. 2 months ago, she'd asked if I'd considered power of attorney. Just in case something happens. Mom, it's responsible planning. I'd consulted my own lawyer instead, who'd advised against giving anyone POA unless absolutely necessary. Cassidy had been furious, though she'd tried to hide it. Now I understood. She couldn't access my assets legally. So she was going to have me declared incompetent. The house Gerald and I had bought 40 years ago, where I'd raised Cassidy, where every room held memories of my husband. She wanted to take it from me. There's more, Merritt said, her voice breaking. Merritt showed me text messages between Cassidy and Brennan. The dementia angle is perfect. Everyone will believe it. She's old enough that it's plausible. Make sure you back me up at Thanksgiving. Act concerned, not greedy. Once she's in a facility, we can list the house immediately. The market's good right now. They'd planned every detail. Cassidy had even contacted a memory care facility, getting pricing information. She'd researched Iowa's laws on adult guardianship. She'd prepared a speech for Thanksgiving, describing her heartbreak at watching her mother decline. My own daughter had been systematically building a case to steal my life. I felt sick. Merritt was sobbing now. I'm sorry, Grandma. I should have told you sooner. But Mom said you'd just get confused and forget anyway. She said it would be kinder to let you go to the home without fighting
My name
it.
is
Merritt took a deep breath. Mom's been telling the whole family that you're losing your mind. She says you have dementia and can't take care of yourself anymore. She's been collecting examples for months. I felt like I'd been punched. What? That's not true. I'm completely fine. Merritt nodded. I know, Grandma. I told her that, but she said you wouldn't realize it yourself. That's how dementia works. My hands were shaking now. What examples? Merritt pulled out her phone and showed me a document. It was titled Mom's Decline Evidence Log. I read through it, my vision blurring with tears. There were dozens of entries. October 3rd, Mom called me 3 times asking the same question about Merritt's school schedule. Clear short-term memory loss. October 10th, found expired food in Mom's refrigerator. She's not managing basic self-care. October 18th, Mom forgot our lunch date completely. Called me confused about why I was upset. Every single entry was a lie or a twisted version of reality. I had called Cassidy multiple times on October 3rd, but about different things. She'd been the one not listening. Distracted by work, the expired food was a single yogurt cup I'd missed. And I hadn't forgotten our lunch date. Cassidy had changed the time without telling me, then acted like I was confused. She's been building a case against you, Merritt said quietly, at Thanksgiving. She's planning to announce it to everyone. Uncle Derek, Aunt Philippa, all the cousins. She's going to say, you need to go into a care facility. I couldn't breathe. Why would she do this? Merritt's voice was barely a whisper. The house, Grandma. Brennan lost his job 6 months ago. They're drowning in debt. Mom said if you go into care, she can sell your house and use the money. The pieces fell into place with horrifying clarity. 3 months ago, Cassidy had suggested I add her name to my house deed. Just for estate planning, Mom. To make things easier when the time comes. I'd said I wanted to think about it. 2 months ago, she'd asked if I'd considered power of attorney. Just in case something happens. Mom, it's responsible planning. I'd consulted my own lawyer instead, who'd advised against giving anyone POA unless absolutely necessary. Cassidy had been furious, though she'd tried to hide it. Now I understood. She couldn't access my assets legally. So she was going to have me declared incompetent. The house Gerald and I had bought 40 years ago, where I'd raised Cassidy, where every room held memories of my husband. She wanted to take it from me. There's more, Merritt said, her voice breaking. Merritt showed me text messages between Cassidy and Brennan. The dementia angle is perfect. Everyone will believe it. She's old enough that it's plausible. Make sure you back me up at Thanksgiving. Act concerned, not greedy. Once she's in a facility, we can list the house immediately. The market's good right now. They'd planned every detail. Cassidy had even contacted a memory care facility, getting pricing information. She'd researched Iowa's laws on adult guardianship. She'd prepared a speech for Thanksgiving, describing her heartbreak at watching her mother decline. My own daughter had been systematically building a case to steal my life. I felt sick. Merritt was sobbing now. I'm sorry, Grandma, I should have told you sooner. But Mom said you'd just get confused and forget anyway. She said it would be kinder to let you go to the home without fighting it. I held Merritt while she cried, my own tears falling silently. Part of me wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming. The document, the texts, the months of strange behavior from Cassidy. It was all real. You did the right thing telling me. I said firmly, this isn't your fault. Your mother is the one who's wrong here. Merritt looked up at me with desperate eyes. What are you going to do? Good question. What could I do if I confronted Cassidy? She'd deny everything and probably accelerate her plans. If I did nothing, Thanksgiving would arrive, and I'd be ambushed in front of my entire family. I needed proof, I needed witnesses, and I needed to protect myself legally before Cassidy could make any moves. First, you're going to forward those messages to my phone. I said, then we're going to be very, very careful. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Vaughn Hendricks. He'd handled Gerald's estate and had been our family attorney for 20 years. I explained everything, including the messages Merritt had shared. Vaughn was silent for a long moment. Lenora, this is elder abuse. Financial exploitation combined with defamation. We need to act immediately. He advised me to document everything. Get a medical evaluation proving my cognitive function. Secure my assets with ironclad legal protections. And gather more evidence of Cassidy's plan. Do you think she'd actually go through with it? I asked, still hoping somehow this was all a nightmare. Vaughn's voice was gentle but firm. Lenora, she's already gone through with it. She's built a false narrative, involved her husband, and manipulated her daughter. The question isn't if she'll do it. It's how we stop her. That afternoon, I visited my doctor, Ramona Talbert. I explained the situation and requested a full cognitive assessment. Dr. Talbert was shocked. Lenora, you're one of the sharpest people I know. You volunteer at the library, teaching technology classes to seniors. You manage your own finances. You drive safely. There's zero indication of dementia. She performed a complete mini-mental state examination, memory tests, and cognitive function assessments. I scored perfectly on everything. She documented it all thoroughly. I'm writing a detailed letter stating that you have no cognitive impairment whatsoever. If your daughter tries to claim otherwise, this medical evidence will refute her immediately. I also asked Dr. Talbert to review my medical history for the past year. Every appointment, every checkup showed normal results. No missed appointments, no confusion, no concerning behaviors. Cassidy's evidence would crumble against actual medical records. Vaughn filed emergency documents, making my estate airtight. No one could access my accounts, sell my property, or make medical decisions without my explicit written consent, requiring witnesses and notarization. 3 days passed. Cassidy called twice, both times with overly sweet concern. Just checking on you, Mom, making sure you're taking your medications. I didn't take any medications except occasional ibuprofen. She knew that. Are you feeling okay? You sound tired. I wasn't tired. I was furious, but I kept my voice calm and pleasant. I'm fine, dear. Looking forward to Thanksgiving. Oh, about that, Cassidy said carefully. I thought we could do something special this year. A family meeting of sorts. My stomach clenched. What kind of meeting? Just some family planning. Making sure everyone's taken care of. You know, important conversations we should have. She was setting the stage, preparing me for the ambush. That sounds lovely, I lied. I'll see you then. After hanging up, I called my brother Derek and sister Philippa. I needed allies who knew the real me. Both were shocked when I explained Cassidy's plan. Derek was furious. That's unconscionable. You're completely fine, Lenora. How could she do this? Philippa was more analytical. She's desperate. Brennan's job loss must have hit them harder than we knew. But desperation doesn't excuse what she's planning. We agreed on a plan. At Thanksgiving, they would observe everything. If Cassidy made her move, they would immediately challenge her claims with their own observations. They would testify to my competence, my independence, my sharp mind. I also contacted 3 of my closest friends from the library, women I'd worked with for decades. I explained the situation, and asked if they'd be willing to provide written statements about my mental state. All three were appalled and immediately agreed. "Lenora, you reorganized our entire digital catalog system last year," said Cordelia, the head librarian. "You taught half our staff how to use the new software. You're sharper than people half your age." The statements arrived within days, detailed and glowing. But I needed something more. I needed Cassidy to reveal her true intentions in a way she couldn't deny. Vaughn suggested recording devices, but Iowa is a one-party consent state. I could legally record my own conversations. I bought a small recording device and kept it with me constantly. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Cassidy came to visit unexpectedly. "Just wanted to drop off some things for Thursday," she said, carrying in grocery bags. While putting items in my refrigerator, she made a point of checking expiration dates. "Mom, this milk expired yesterday. See, this is what I'm worried about." The milk had been fine yesterday. I'd checked. She must have brought expired milk herself to plant as evidence. I said nothing, but the recorder in my cardigan pocket captured everything. Then Cassidy sat me down at the kitchen table. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something serious." Her voice was dripping with false concern. "I've been noticing some changes in you. Memory problems, confusion. I'm worried you're not safe living alone anymore." I kept my voice neutral. "I feel fine." "Cassidy, that's the thing, Mom. People with dementia don't always recognize it themselves. That's why family has to step in." She pulled out brochures for memory care facilities. "I've been researching options. There are some really nice places. You'd have your own room, activities, medical care right there." My heart was pounding. But I stayed calm. "These places are expensive." Cassidy waved her hand dismissively. "We'd sell the house, that would cover years of care." There it was, the real motive. "But this is my home," I said quietly. "I'm not ready to leave." Cassidy's mask slipped for just a moment. Irritation flashed across her face. "Mom, you're not thinking clearly." "That's exactly my point. You can't make these decisions anymore." I let her continue talking, digging herself deeper. She explained how she'd handle the house sale, how she'd manage my finances, how she'd already spoken to an elder care attorney about guardianship. Every word was recorded. She even admitted Brennan's job loss, saying they could really use the equity from the house to get back on their feet. When she finally left, I sat in my kitchen shaking. My own daughter had just laid out her entire plan to steal my independence and my home. That evening, I met with Vaughn and played him the recording. His face grew darker as he listened. "This is gold, Lenora. She's admitted to financial motive, to planning guardianship without medical basis, to essentially plotting to defraud you. This recording, combined with your medical evidence and witness statements, makes an airtight case. What do I do on Thanksgiving?" I asked. Vaughn smiled grimly. "You let her make her move, then we make ours." Thanksgiving arrived, my house filled with family members. Just as Cassidy had planned, Derek and Philippa arrived early, both hugging me extra tight. Merritt stayed close to me all morning, her face pale with anxiety. Cassidy and Brennan arrived with forced cheerfulness. Around the dining table, there were 12 of us, including cousins and their spouses. After we'd eaten, Cassidy stood up and clinked her glass. "Everyone, I need to discuss something important." "It's about Mom." The room went quiet. Cassidy's voice was trembling with rehearsed emotion. "Over the past few months, I've noticed Mom declining. Memory loss, confusion, difficulty with basic tasks. I've documented everything because I love her and want her to get proper care." She pulled out her evidence log and began reading examples. Several family members looked concerned. Cassidy was convincing. I had to give her that. She sounded like a devoted daughter facing heartbreak. Then Cassidy delivered her prepared conclusion. "I think it's time we faced reality. Mom can't live independently anymore. She needs professional memory care, and we need to make arrangements for her assets to cover that care." Brennan nodded solemnly, playing his supporting role perfectly. That's when Derek stood up. "Cassidy, that's quite an accusation. What does Lenora's doctor say?" Cassidy faltered slightly. "Well, Mom hasn't wanted to see her doctor, which is part of the problem." I stood up slowly. "Actually, Cassidy, I saw Dr. Talbert last week. Would you like to see the results of my cognitive assessment?" I pulled out the medical report. Perfect scores on every test. Dr. Talbert's letter stating clearly that I showed no signs of cognitive impairment whatsoever. Cassidy's face went white. I don't understand. You must have had a good day." Philippa spoke up, or maybe your evidence is fabricated. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from 2 days ago. Cassidy's voice filled the room, discussing selling my house, using the equity, admitting they needed the money. The room erupted, cousins were shouting questions. Derek was demanding explanations. Brennan was trying to leave, Cassidy was crying, claiming she'd been taken out of context. But context was impossible to misunderstand. Her own words condemned her. I stayed calm throughout. Cassidy, I had a lawyer draw up documents protecting my estate. You can't access my finances, sell my property, or make any decisions for me. I'm competent, healthy, and staying in my home. I looked at Merritt, who was crying quietly. And I'm pressing charges for attempted elder abuse and financial exploitation. Vaughn had advised this. The recordings and evidence were strong enough for legal action. Cassidy would face consequences for what she'd tried to do. The Thanksgiving gathering dissolved into chaos. Most family members left quickly, uncomfortable with the drama. Cassidy and Brennan departed in fury, threats, and tears. The legal proceedings took months. The district attorney filed charges based on Cassidy's clear intent to exploit me financially using false claims of incompetence. Her text messages, the recording, and the fabricated evidence log made the case straightforward. Cassidy pled guilty to attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult in exchange for a reduced sentence. She received 2 years probation, mandatory counseling, and a permanent restraining order. She couldn't contact me without court supervision. Brennan faced separate charges for conspiracy. He got 1 year probation. They were ordered to pay my legal fees, nearly $15,000. More importantly, Cassidy's actions destroyed her reputation. Her marketing firm let her go. Friends abandoned her. Family members who'd witnessed Thanksgiving wanted nothing to do with her. I changed my will. Everything goes to Merritt now. Held in trust until she's 25. She stayed loyal throughout, testifying honestly about what her mother had planned. I still see her regularly, always at public places per the restraining order. I'm sharing this story because elder abuse doesn't always look like physical violence. Sometimes it's a daughter who decides her inheritance is more important than her mother's dignity. Sometimes it's fabricated dementia claims to justify stealing someone's independence. If your elderly and family members suddenly become very interested in your finances or your declining health, trust your instincts, get independent medical evaluations, secure your assets with lawyers who represent only you. Don't sign anything under pressure, and know that you have rights, no matter how much someone tries to convince you otherwise. My relationship with Cassidy is gone forever. I grieve the daughter I thought I had, but I won't apologize for defending myself. Some betrayals are unforgivable, and planning to institutionalize your healthy mother for money is one of them. Protect yourselves, trust your gut, and never let anyone make you doubt your own mind when you know the truth. Justice isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. Elder financial abuse affects 1 in 10 seniors. If you suspect abuse, contact Adult Protective Services immediately. You are not alone, and help is available. And now to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? We want to hear it. Your voice matters here, whether it's a personal experience, a revenge moment, a wild betrayal, or just an idea that could make our next story even better. We're listening. Tell us what themes you want more of. What twists keep you hooked? What hit you hardest in this story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The best suggestions might become our next viral story. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more satisfying stories like this. Thanks for watching.